Have you ever noticed how sometimes the really big moments, the real surprises, they often come from people who aren't really in the spotlight at all?
Hmm.
It's this like fascinating idea of flying under the radar, doing amazing things while everyone's looking somewhere else. What can actually get done when the focus isn't on you?
It's a really interesting position to be in, isn't it? That sort of quiet climb, the unexpected arrival. It definitely allows for a different kind of growth, I think, a unique way to build things up.
It really does, and that's exactly what we're going to deep dive into today. We found this really interesting piece from Yardbarker. It's titled "Jaguars DT Jordan Jefferson Shines in the Shadows."
Okay.
So our mission here is to unpack this whole concept, excelling when you're not the main focus. We want to see what it tells us about surprising talent and maybe more importantly, why being under the radar isn't just about being quiet. It can actually be a really powerful strategic edge,
Yeah.
especially in these super competitive areas like, say, the NFL.
Yeah, and what's great is how the article just jumps right into that core idea. It says the concept of flying under the radar is one that is very intriguing.
Hmm.
And then there's so much that can be accomplished when all eyes are on others. It really sets the stage perfectly, this idea that, quiet work can lead to some pretty big outcomes.
And to really hammer this home, the article does something brilliant. It pulls in this fantastic analogy from, well, one of the greatest crime dramas of the 90s, right? The Usual Suspects.
Absolutely a classic.
Because if anyone truly mastered flying under the radar, it had to be Kevin Spacey's character, Roger Verbal Kint. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, definitely. I mean,
Totally.
that whole mind-bending twist, it only lands because Verbal Kint, this guy everyone just wrote off as the meek and mild lackey,
You know,
he is so masterfully kind of weaponized, being ignored. And then the reveal that he's actually the criminal mastermind, Kaiser Soze.
Eh?
I mean, it left audiences completely stupefied. And like the perfect movie example of someone underestimated holding this just immense, surprising power. The film really shows not just how deceptive being overlooked can be, but how valuable it is strategically.
Yeah, you watch it again and you're like, okay, the hints were there, but I just wasn't looking at him that way. But okay, this isn't just about movie villains, is it? This idea, this strategic obscurity, it pops up powerfully in the real world too, especially in sports. You see players who just seem to come out of the woodwork, as the article says, and just announce their presence with authority.
Exactly. And it makes total sense that Jordan Jefferson, defensive tackle for the Jacksonville Jaguars, gets highlighted here. Think of it, and unlike maybe a flashy receiver or the star QB, a DT's really critical work. It happens down in the trenches. A lot of it is kind of unseen by the average fan. They're blowing up plays, eating up blockers, basically paving the way for the linebackers or edge guys to make those big splashy plays. Their contribution is huge. It's foundational, but it doesn't always get the credit. So yeah, they're prime candidates for shining in the shadows.
Okay, so for a player like Jefferson, then, who maybe doesn't have that like day-to-day media frenzy surrounding him like a quarterback might, how does that translate, that sort of freedom to develop? Does it mean he can, I don't know, work on unconventional moves or train differently? What's the actual edge for a defensive tackle who's operating under the radar?
Well, that's a really good point. For someone like Jefferson, it could mean he gets to quietly hone a very specific skill, maybe something a bit unorthodox,
Right.
without that constant pressure to be making highlight reel plays every single game.
Right. No constant spotlight judging every move.
Exactly. He can perfect that fundamental, often unglamorous but game-winning stuff. Holding his ground against blocks, collapsing the pocket, stuffing the run, things that don't always jump out on the stat sheet or make the national news. And that's where the surprising impact often comes from. It's in that consistent, solid execution that maybe nobody's laser focused on, but the whole team benefits from eventually.
And this isn't just, some random thought. This insight, this deep dive, it comes from Brian Anthony Davis. He's the Jacksonville Jaguars beat writer for On SI. So he's got eyes on the team day in, day out.
Well, goes to the source.
Yeah, the article originally appeared on Jacksonville Jaguars on SI, updated just recently, June 19th, 2025.
Yeah.
There's even a picture, Jordan Jefferson, number 98, right there on the field against the Falcons back on August 23, 2024. So we're getting a really informed kind of insider perspective here on who's genuinely positioned to make a difference, even if maybe the big headlines aren't quite there yet.
It really makes you appreciate how powerful being underestimated can actually be.
Yeah.
If you're not the main focus all the time, it genuinely seems to give you more freedom to grow, to polish your skills, and just operate without that crushing weight of immediate sky-high expectations that so often burdens, like the really high-profile players.
Yeah, that pressure cooker.
Right. And then when those under-the-radar players do emerge, their impact often feels even bigger, precisely because it wasn't necessarily expected.
So, okay, what does all this mean for you listening right now, beyond just the football example?
Yeah.
What is it about these under-the-radar types that's so compelling?
I think it's about recognizing that perceived obscurity. It isn't necessarily a weakness. It can be a real strategic asset.
Mm.
Think about maybe situations in your own work or, just life where being underestimated could actually be your secret weapon. It gives you that breathing room, right?
Mm.
To build, maybe experiment a little, and then ultimately surprise everyone. And that's really the core takeaway here, isn't it? That potent power of flying under the radar. It's about turning that lack of initial focus into, well, a launch pad for making a really significant, unexpected impact, kind of like what Jordan Jefferson is aiming to do for the Jags.
So it leaves you with a thought, doesn't it? If the most impactful contributions, the real game changers, often come from those shining in the shadows, how might you get better at spotting and maybe even empowering the hidden gems around you? In your team, your community, or perhaps even more personally, how could you discover and leverage your own under-the-radar strengths?
Yeah.
It's a pretty powerful way to maybe reframe how we look at potential and ultimately what success really looks like.